Welcome, everybody. This is the Fall Line with KS and Company. I'm Dave Capert. I'm here with my buddy Angelo Ross, and we have a cool guest this week for everyone. Stephen Helfenbein, all the way from out west in Utah, is here with us. One of our Blizzard Technica team members on the Alpine team. How you doing, Stephen? Look at that. He's got his hat.
I'm doing great. Great to be here with you guys.
Cool. This is awesome. Angelo, how's your week been?
Wet. We had like 3 days of rain, and now I'm looking out. It's weird. We're a little early today because Stephen's out west and we're in the east. So I'm not used to seeing the sun through my window, but it went back up into the high 80s today. But we had like 68 and rain yesterday. I almost built a fire.
Yeah, geez, I'm crazy. I've just been in the blueberry field, so my fingers are still kind of blue coming out of it just now. So turning into Mr. Smurf, as Paul Hunter says, I'm going to be the Smurf, Papa Smurf, with all the blue we have in the blueberry fields. But what have you been up to out west, Stephen?
This summer's been pretty quiet for me, mostly just goofing off.
Cool.
Yeah. I don't have to be anywhere specific every day, just a lot of shuttling kids around and house projects, a few camping trips. It's been pretty enjoyable so far.
That's awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we're psyched to have you on. And we always start with folks that haven't been on the podcast before with that one question that seems everyone loves is, how old were you learned how to ski? Was the first time with a lesson? Was it family, friends, or what was it? I'm
pretty sure that I was 5. And I was pretty lucky where I was born. I was born in Aspen. And so we had pretty good access to skiing. So I guess starting at 5 was actually pretty late by comparison to everyone else around me. But we had a really cool school program that took you up to the hill from Carbondale, where I lived, a little town down Valley of Aspen. Would take you up on Saturdays. And it was silly cheap. Back then, the parents would just drop you off. School buses would take you up, bring you back at the end of the day. So I think that's how I started. And they gave you lessons in that program. I think that's how it all began. I don't remember loving it. I don't like my most distinct memories are all of like the miserable stuff, like getting drug up the hill up by a T-bar. Like a big adult sized T-bar, not suitable for 5-year-olds at all. I remember that real well. I remember peeing my pants on my first long chairlift ride. They didn't worry about that. And then dropping my poles off a lift, stuff like that. So I think it was a while before I really found a way to enjoy skiing, but it eventually happened. I was, like I said, just mostly lucky. Had the access, had the exposure.
Yeah, the first experience, Angelo. This is great, man. We needed Stephen on earlier. This is true chaos in your early years of skiing because we all had that. I remember the T-bar from Mount Whittier here up the street, no longer open. That used to drag me to the top. I would go in the air because I was too small, and I would just start spinning around. Someone else that's been on the podcast was talking about that. I can't remember if it was Robin or somebody. Who was that?
I don't know how the sport survived, to be honest.
Yeah.
I was trying to remember if anybody else on the show said they peed their pants.
Awesome.
And then the first one, who's the first person that pops into your mind, like most likely to have peed his pants, who's been
Matt Boyd.
Boyd, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we should shoot him.
We almost need to call him right now. Yeah. Matt, just to tell you, we are on the air, but have you ever peed your pants while skiing?
Yeah.
I'm peeing my pants right now. I get it.
So in the early years that you did the ski thing with the school groups and that, did you keep doing that with school or did you do it more with friends as you got older in your teen years or family?
I think on that program, they cut you off from lessons when you got to be 13, but they would still offer the option to go up and free ski with your pals. So that was super cool. And that kind of gave you like the first thing to aspire to. Was like, I want to do this long enough so I can come up and just free ski with all my friends. And I think that's when it really, clicked. It was just raising hell on buttermilk with all my pals. I don't know if you guys have skied there, but it's a great place to learn to ski. One of the best I can remember after, seeing a lot of different ski areas. And when you're 13, it's a mountain where you don't really have to turn. And it's, 2,000 plus feet of not having to turn with really good jumps tucked all over the place. And it was like the greatest place to do that as a 13-year-old knucklehead.
We all were knuckleheads when we skied when we were young. Everyone says that when they come on. They all say they're causing trouble, causing havoc. It's like, I think it's like a requirement of becoming a ski pro.
It's genetic.
Yeah, it's great. And what's the worst thing you could do? Really, you couldn't get in too much trouble because you're surrounded by a bunch of people that were doing it when they were your age, and everyone kind of gets it. So,
so what other sports did you do growing up?
I think I did, pretty much anything I could do, whatever was in season. Summers, you got plugged into swimming and baseball, soccer during the school year, eventually football a little bit, although I was a little bit tiny for football. A lot of basketball. I probably committed to basketball the most in my later school years, wasted the most time on that.
Angelo will say he wasted most of his time on skateboarding. I don't think it was wasted though, Angelo.
He's still skateboarding though.
Never say
yes.
I'm wasting my lower back and knees and body, but definitely not time.
No.
Yeah, it's not kind to the body.
Especially on his shoulders. He complains about his shoulders all the time. So that tells me how many times he went down.
Lots.
Oh man, God saved the head by hitting the shoulder.
I haven't peed my pants though. I have to work on that.
Yeah, if you're peeing your pants while you're skateboarding,
So how much of growing up doing all the different sports do you feel is really advantageous to skiing? That just the athleticism or just the diversity? What do you think?
I think you said it. This was in an era pre-specialization. That was just not a concept when I was growing up about sport. Yeah. The more you did, the better. And I got to say that as a, aging athlete, that I'm grateful for all that experience that I got when I was young and things that I might be able to do on skis now and still continue to improve, I think, on skis now. I point to just that early diversification in sport, developing body awareness and coordination and just knowing where you are in space is such a big deal. And I think when you specialize in something, and those movement patterns are sort of fixed, the range is kind of limited, or the skills and movements are a little limited, you definitely get cheated. And I think it could put an artificial ceiling on what you might be able to achieve.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And along that route, when you're young, I don't know when you started ski teaching. Was it early in your teen years? Was it in your 20s? Yeah.
Funny thing happens, after you graduate high school and you get sent off to college, you get cut off from the parental budget. So I loved skiing enough to know that I wanted to keep doing it. But I also knew that I wouldn't be able to afford it as just a kind of a average, customer out there. So I just looked right away for a way to stay attached to, or get attached to the ski industry so I could subsidize my habit, support my habit. And that's how it all started. I was 19. And I went to college in Denver. So getting home was pretty quick. And we had this great thing at the University of Denver. We had a 6-week winter break from Thanksgiving to January 1st or 2nd. So that was a great window to go home and teach skiing. And that's how it all started.
Cool. And where did you start at? Where did you go? Where's your first resort to teach at?
Right back where I started skiing, Buttermilk. I got to teach skiing there and actually got to teach the program that, gave me my start. So that was pretty neat. And, looking back, I definitely feel more nostalgic about that than I did in the moment, But I think that was a pretty cool way to get started.
Yeah, that's cool. And when did you start full time? Was it right after college or?
Yeah. Graduating college. When I went to college, all of my conventional sports that I played during high school were taken away from me, and what was left but skiing and mountain biking. And so I just tried to do skiing and mountain biking as much as I could during college. And then that's when I realized, like, wow, maybe I could keep doing this. And so I looked for a cool place to go once I finished college, and thought I'd do it for a year or two before I went to grad school or something like that. And headed to Alta right after graduating.
Yeah. What drew you to Alta?
I just had a pretty pretty simple approach to it. I was looking for somewhere where it snowed a lot, and that had a lot of expert terrain. Powder, I think it was Powder Magazine. They used to do a pretty cool resort guide. It was not sexy at all. It was just like a spreadsheet of stats, but it gave you a really cool way to compare all these different places. So it was like percentage of expert terrain, annual snowfall, check. I'm going to go there.
Cool. And you've gone from that all the way to Alpine team member, which I want to chat about when you started thinking about that. But it just came to me, because you're also I want to make sure I get this right, in Intermountain, you're the Alpine education manager.
Actually, just recently stepped down from that position, but yeah, I did that for like a dozen years or so.
Yep. And because you're at Deer Valley, the training manager, is that where you are now? Yep. Yeah. Okay. And so how did all of it, like certifications, to go to that point? When did you do a level 1? Was there a different route back then when you started? Did you go and then level 2, 3, or?
I just recently saw my educational history for the first time. and I realized that when I did the level 1, that was 95, maybe 94, somewhere in there. And that was like pretty near the beginning of that certification of a level 1. Yeah. I didn't know that was kind of a new thing for PSIA. Obviously prior to that, it was associate and full cert. So I did that after teaching skiing for a couple of years, got my level 1 in the Rocky Mountain division at a Vail event. And then, that gave me just barely a toehold of credibility enough to make the jump to Alta. And then once I got to Alta, I realized that I was like, it's a special place. It's got a long history of these legends of ski instruction. And being in that environment was really inspirational and motivated me quite a bit to keep plugging away. And part of the reason I went there, I had learned about the PSIA national team, again, reading a ski magazine, I think. And that was part of the reason I went to Alta, because this magazine article that I read was about a guy named Scott Mathers. And I found out that he worked at Alta. And I was like, oh, wow, this guy is a ski instructor and he skis awesome, and is being compared to some of these like famous pro skiers that I know, like being able to hang with that type of skier. And I thought, maybe that's a way that I could, prolong my relationship with skiing. And so it was clear I wasn't going to be a racer or a freestyler, or, at that time, extreme skiing was on the it was just beginning, and that seemed pretty out of reach. So it's like, well, I just want to be good at this. I want to get as good as I can and be a skier for life. And what would be a pathway for that? And reading that article was really the spark.
It's neat, Angela, the different inspirations along the way of, some find out about the team early, some find out about it later in their cert years. It's interesting how we, just from an article, you got that and then inspired you. So did you know when you read that article, you're like, I want to try to get there? Or was it kind of, you were inspired to get better because of it?
Both. It was cool to think that there was an upper echelon within this community of ski instruction. I had no clue really what it would take to get there, but I thought it was pretty cool that there was clearly a hierarchy to work through that appealed to me. Because I just always loved training. I loved like practice more than games, with all the sports I did. I just loved playing. And once that stuff all went away, I was like, well, what do I have left? And like practicing skiing, that sounded like a pretty good pastime, to just go skiing a bunch and learn what I could about it and try to keep getting better.
Did you get to hang with Scott once you got there?
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah, Scott was, Alta's a really small staff. It's always been right around 90 to 100 instructors, and it's a very personal environment. And Scott does all the training, and he was real hands-on and was a great example for me, and really grateful for, his hit the way he went about it. And, he was the first person to tell me, like, yeah, you could make this a career. You could do this full time. You can take it wherever you want it, but this could be your main job.
How would you describe his style? It spoke to you, like his coaching spoke to you. So,
well, that's an interesting question. That it sounds like you might have you been with him before? Have you skied with him before?
Nope.
No.
I'm gonna base whether or not I want to on your answer.
Yeah. It's you guys know Sean Smith probably.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Scott really looked up to Sean, and I'd say he was, from what I know of Sean, pretty similar in style to that. If that means anything to you. Yeah. Pretty direct. And I think what they would call it back in the day was military feedback. It's like, quit messing it up. Why are you doing it that way? What do you think you're doing? But, the example, the standard was clear, which there's a ton of value in that. Maybe there's not a lot of information about how to crack the code there, but it's like, nope, this is the standard and you're there. So step it up. That was really how the theme of it, but that works for me. I'm someone that works for.
So are there any bumps on the road, or big bumps or small bumps, those speed bumps that you had to overcome? Or
Totally. Yeah, definitely.
And what were they? What was one of them?
Myself. I mean, I'm my own worst enemy. And you got no one else to blame with this than yourself in this whole like certification pursuit, or wherever you're trying to get within snow sports advancement. Like it's just forcing you to look in the mirror constantly. Yeah. And I bit off a big goal. I wanted to get to the top, and I still want to be better all the time. And so it's easier to ask yourself, how you could do better or what you've done wrong than to wait for somebody else to tell you. And I'm always skeptical for some reason about, other people's advice or their point of view. I learned the hard way. I got to figure it out for myself. So that certainly slowed down my trajectory.
Angelo loves that self-awareness part. I mean, he's definitely, his head's moving. Yep. I mean,
so many of the people who've come on this podcast who've reached the national team level have said that's how they go about it. And I think you might take a little bit more of a beating that way than somebody just telling you everything. But like, once you own it, it's yours.
I totally agree.
You're not borrowing it. You figured it out. You felt it. You can identify it, and you do the next thing. And I think like the typical way that I think a lot of people try to learn skiing is they get these tidbits here and tidbits there, and they appear on the surface to be conflicting or opposite pieces of information when really they're not, when you understand the big picture. But I think your process and that process of experimentation eliminates a lot of that. You check in with people you respect for clarification. That's way higher level than just sitting there hearing it.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. That's well said. And that's a hard thing to get someone else to understand or to adopt. Like that's a tough mindset to pass on. But if depending on what your goals are, I mean, that's a surefire way to achieve them. It might not be fast, but I've never seen that fail for someone.
And having a mentor helps, because the danger is you can just spin in mediocrity and inefficient movements and have no idea you're doing that. So you definitely, like I have to imagine if one grew up at a resort where there was really nobody to check in with, that wouldn't work. But you had people to check in with. So it's good.
That, and you have to be willing to take the risk of putting yourself out there. You've got to go try something that you know you're going to fail at. You've got to take a beat down. You got to struggle and fail. There's no way that I would have made it anywhere if I was afraid to fail. Because I went into a lot of situations with a lot of confidence, but totally underskilled. Totally underskilled.
That's not a popular mindset.
No.
Like not wanting to fail, but accepting that you're going to.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's just part of it's a competitive thing, just the desire to me. It's felt like a competition at times, whether it's with myself or inventing competitions with other people. That's been helpful for me. At the end of the day, you realize that it's not, you got to shut it down. You can't really externalize that on other people in this thing, unless it's all in fun. But I had my best friend, Colin Bywaters. We started at Alta at the same time. He was 19, I was 21, and we competed with each other every run. Anytime we went for a bike ride, we competed with each other. It wasn't malicious. We never even talked shit to each other. It was just, we knew that we had each other to push each other. And that was massive. That was massive for all of my progress.
I can guess that on the mountain bike, the competition parameter was probably speed, but what was it on the ski hill?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't even know, man. It would change all the time, but we would go out and video every morning that we could. If we had 30, 45 minutes, we would go up the chair and we would take turns videoing each other. And then we'd watch it at the end of the day. And, maybe there was some technical thing that we were focused on, and we would just see who was doing it, who wasn't. Or we just say, oh, I like this about what you're doing. The other would appreciate something else about what the other person was doing. So we just had each other as a sounding board and just a measuring stick. And he came into it. The cool thing was that he was from the Northwest, and he got to ski 10 months a year on Mount Hood. So he was a level 3 by the time he was 19. And I was, a lowly level 1, and I was 2 years older than him. So I had to catch up to him. And that fired me up. That gave me all the motivation I needed. And so once I finally caught him, a few years later, but we still just kept pushing each other. I became a staff member before he did, and then he became one. And then we were, trying out for national team together. So just having that wingman and someone to push it was so valuable.
So were there some other folks along the journey that maybe are even early in the career that you look back and go, man, that was really good. I learned a lot there, or this person inspired me here, or one thing. Yeah. Who was
I was really fortunate to get to spend a lot of time with Ron Kipp. Ron was based here for a bunch of years, and he worked at Deer Valley as a ski instructor in between some of his stints with the U.S. ski team. And he was our education or certification manager, one or the other. And I got involved with divisional leadership pretty early on, and while Ron was doing that. And that was huge. I mean, I learned a ton from him. Just I had no idea who Ron was at the time. And, just learned over time all of his credentials and all of the cool things he was into. And I just tried to soak up as much knowledge as I could from him.
His knowledge in the race world and then the motor learning world is just like crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's beyond belief. It's you kind of, I've been on the hill a couple of times with him when he's been here in the East, when he was really big doing the skills quest when that came out. And I was kind of standing there. I'm like, I'm not sure I want to say anything or do anything because it won't be as good as what Ron's doing. I'm just going to wait for him to do something. I'm going to copy that over with my group.
Yeah. Well, imagine like being viewed as like a peer to him. You know, we were the leaders of the division, and clearly he knows way more than I do. And everyone knows that except me, maybe. But, it's still like that when I hang out with him. I just try to soak up whatever I can because he's so curious. Like, he's a smart guy and he's learned a lot, but man, he's just so curious.
Yeah, Angela and I are looking. We've been chatting with him. We're trying to schedule, and we're going to have him on the podcast hopefully here as we get into late summer, early fall. And we got to do our homework because he'll be able to correct us. Yeah.
Well, I mean, he's a fun person, right? Like Ron is a fun guy, and he there's a serious side to him, but he also is just he's a bit of a goofball and has a great sense of humor. And
his YouTube videos are pretty awesome.
Exhibit A. Yeah.
Definitely. He can definitely put it all into a short little thing and make it fun. And like, man, there's a lot of knowledge just in that little fun thing we did and watched. Yeah, absolutely. And, if you were to pick one thing along your journey to go that this was really pivotal, is there a pivotal point or was just everything kind of built? Sometimes I know some people have this one experience that's like, wow, this one really nailed it for me I know if I didn't get that, it would have been tough.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I know that after I went to a couple of national team selection processes, I was pretty disenchanted with the process and just unclear about, what I needed to do. Cause you'll go through those things and all you really find out is I'm not there yet. You don't necessarily know where you are, like where is here? What does it mean? And how do I go forward? And so I was stuck there for a while. But then I think about like one conversation I had with Jonathan Ballou, like in between my second and third attempts. And it was just real simple. It was just something like, I can see you doing this. I can see you doing what I do. So what's your problem? Kind of like he could see it. I mean, sure, there were some things I had to correct from a skiing perspective or whatever, but that was, I think, a big sort of unofficial endorsement, whether he meant it or not. Maybe he was just being polite. He probably tells everybody that, but it worked for me. It gave me like a little nudge to recommit. Just say, all right, I'm going to not give up on this yet.
That's cool. That is cool. That's like just coming up to see how you were and say, hey, I can see you doing this, what I'm doing. That's a pretty neat thing. And for him, even if he was being polite, which I doubt I think he probably saw something. I mean, obviously now making the team, being part of the team, I imagine he saw something real.
That, or I just tried to model myself after a little bit of him or a little bit of somebody else, like it was,
it worked.
Yeah. Something worked.
Yeah. So how do you relate and connect with the learning connection model? Is it the whole thing? Is there pieces of it that you really personally mean a lot to you that you've developed in, or are your strengths? Or
I think that ski teaching or snowboard teaching, telemark teaching, any snow sports teaching is one of the coolest things that you can do. And I think a lot of us agree with that and know that deep down, or we wouldn't be, doing it. We connect with it in a real personal way. And I think that, that model does a pretty decent job of explaining the parts that go into it. And there's a lot of depth within that model, but I think it just gives you a real clear picture of the different skill sets that you need to be successful. It can't be just one or two. It's, the best, most successful snow sports instructors are well-rounded individuals. And if you're out with them, it rarely seems like you're in a lesson per se. It's just an awesome experience. And they might be the best ones can modify how they do what they do, depending on their audience, and shift around, shift their skill set, shift their recipe a bit. That's what I like about it. And I think the potential to explore it and continue to explain it is massive. This is just a recent development for us to describe ski teaching in this way. I think we've always recognized what good ski teaching is intuitively, but this does a great job of explaining it in very simple language. But there's a ton of depth there to explore.
I didn't know if you had something, Angelo. You were shaking your head.
Was I? Oh.
Angelo's the smart part of the podcast. So I always go, when it comes to learning connection model, we get into the deep education, man. He's my education man. I'm the hack who kind of learns as I go.
Oh yeah.
Put them on. There you go.
I'll put my reading glasses on and tell you what I just wrote. I wrote, as Stephen was talking, I was listening and writing, multitasking. But I wrote, because I see this at home, and I wonder if you see this in your experience. I agree. I think there's a lot packed into the learning connection model. Like it's a comprehensive piece of work, isn't it? Like it's 60 years of experience in this package but I think what happens a lot, what I see folks do is they'll study that manual, for example, instead of using the manual to study their experience and reflect. Yes. And so you're a training manager. I'm a training manager. Dave is, are you a training manager, Dave? Are you?
I guess. Yeah.
Right.
That's the title, I guess. Yeah.
How do you get folks to do that? How do you get them to make that flip-flop from like trying to memorize this body of work to using this as a structure to understand what they're seeing and doing and hearing and saying every day?
Oh, that's a great question. I love how you said what you said, that, using that material to sort of explain or explore their experience rather than the other way around. And I think you've exposed one of the unintended consequences of how we've evolved as an association is we put sort of the parts in front of the whole in certain ways. And you lose sight of that whole, of the target, of the big picture, whatever you want to call it. I've always thought of it as an outcome, right? Like outcome dictates everything else. And if you don't have an outcome, then you're just wasting time investigating something or practicing something for its own sake. And it may or may not lead to a productive result, but I don't know where that comes from, but I do think emphasis on an outcome is a big piece of changing that pattern. It's probably not everything, but just starting there is so vital. And I think that's why the learning connection model is hopefully got some longevity and some staying power cooked into it, because it emphasizes an outcome in a particular way, as in connection, right? That connection and learning are the outcomes of what should be the outcomes of what we do in a most general sense, right? Is try to connect with people, and hopefully there's some learning involved in that. However you get there is kind of irrelevant. We need to know how to do that. We should be able to reverse engineer it and train it so people can be successful more of the time. But, maybe we have an opportunity to celebrate that more. I think it's hard for people to acknowledge that maybe it's something as simple as that, right? That some of our challenges are as simple as not having a agreed upon outcome.
And you're involved, thinking about experience, and you're pretty involved with the Rollerblade skate to ski program, right?
Yeah.
And that's one of our that's pretty close to summer skiing without snow.
Yeah, it's fun. That's a newer thing for me that I never would have saw coming. I dabbled in some skating, inline skating when I was in my early college years. Had some pretty embarrassing experiences on those too, similar to my early ski days.
Did you pee your pants?
Did you pee your pants?
Yeah, just about through sheer embarrassment and terror. I won't go into the details, but yeah, enough. It was bad enough to stop doing it for quite a while. But and then I saw that it was sort of reemerging as a training tool, and Rollerblade was starting to reinvigorate that program, and started to push it here in Intermountain a bit. And then just started dabbling myself and experimenting a bit and testing out some ideas. And, I think as far as improving things that are exactly the same in skiing, it's a massive tool. I think there's still a lot of misinterpretation, misassumptions about it. But it could be such an impactful tool, and you can get reps so easily. Like the amount of reps that you can accumulate in a short period of time are amazing.
And then that seems to be a key thing for you, is that, when I think of the learning connection model, that experimentation, it doesn't say fail, but in that whole thing of being able to allow yourself to experiment, not be afraid of failing and try things. And, same thing with you said there. Yeah. You weren't the best inline skater, and you're like, what am I getting into? But I mean, where are you now? Like, I guarantee you say you're not that good. And I guarantee if we watched your inline skate, you've probably been pretty good, because you definitely like to practice at things.
Well, I don't know. You guys know Miles, right? Miles Counter-Sparrow.
Yeah.
Like, he's what I would point to as a skater, right? Like, he is a good skater. Yeah. He's also a really good skier. I got to ski with him finally at Big Sky last April. Miles is a skater. I am just a skier trying to use skates to get better at skiing. Like, it's totally different animal. It's funny, like the inline skating community, like I don't really know much about it, but there's so many different, it's a very inclusive world. Like they'll embrace any types, like subset of skating within it, and so many different uses for it. It's pretty cool.
So how often do you get on the skates during the summer?
Maybe a couple days a week.
Yep. Yeah. Then you spend like an hour and a half. It kind of depends on the week, or? Yeah,
depends on the week. Some weeks I'll be leading maybe 2 to 4 hours of sessions, of training sessions with other instructors. And then I might have a chance to just go out and like skate for 30 minutes myself. If I find a great spot that has like a perfect gradient, really nice pavement, I'll just go and session that, and skate up, get the glutes burning a bit, and then turn around and go down and make some turns.
Yeah. So go ahead, Angel. Sorry.
Is that when you organize skates with people, is that Deer Valley Snow Sports School, or is that community group, or
through Intermountain right now? But trying to broaden those opportunities more and more. The main strategy with Skate Ski and Rollerblade is trying to partner with the different PSIA regions and help them get educational credit, right? Getting your CEUs done in the non-winter months to me is a nice advantage, frees up some time in your winter. So that was our initial strategy, but now we're looking at ways to broaden that approach and expose, other skiers to it, other ski schools to it. So I think you're going to start seeing a lot of different relationships form, skate ski and different types of skiers, and hopefully over the next few years. And it'll get a little broader reach than just PSIA community.
So advice to some folks that haven't been on the blades, might be nervous about it.
Yeah. And that's probably one of the big hurdles, right? It's the falls hurt. And we always think about that first. Just find somewhere flat and open, super flat and open, and get out there and use what you know about ski. It can help you get introduced to it. Like stopping is always a big one, right? How do I stop these crazy things without falling? And we don't do this in skiing, but you just kind of turn in a circle. Turns slow you down in skiing, and turns will slow you down on skates. So just kind of get people to turn in a circle. And once you realize you can control your direction and control your speed a little bit, then next thing you know, you're forgetting about that stuff and you just want to keep going.
So what skates are you on? What model?
I've got the Twister, which is got 4 wheels, 90 millimeter wheels. And that's like a nice blend for like little faster speeds, turning at little faster speeds, but they're also pretty maneuverable. Like you could still navigate some tight turns and cones and things like that. I think that's a pretty versatile setup. Wheel size is like a big deal. I didn't know this, but like the wheel diameter, with skating really kind of dictates the different kind of things you're going to be able to do. And I think 90 is the sweet spot.
Yeah. Billy Shreve was on it. Billy was pretty big on the wheel diameter. He went through all of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Billy's got the tech on the wheel sizes, and that, didn't he, Angelo?
He had it dialed. Yeah.
He did have it dialed. There's a guy, that he knows when an interstate, he can go on the interstate because there's no cars before it opens up to car. Remember, he was showing us photos of that.
Yeah.
He was involved with a councilman or something, and so
he was a county commissioner. He had
county commissioner. So
I think it was a big pork project. He had a highway built that nobody else was allowed to be on except him and his rollerblades.
Yeah, he's out blading. Yeah, it's like a 3-4 lane highway. He's out blading on. We're like, where's all the cars? He's like, well, it's not open yet, and I know the time frame. I'm like, oh my God.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was really wild. Billy had it dialed in to know how to go rollerblade.
That is awesome.
Yeah. And so this is only the second time that you and I have met, Stephen. We did on the fall when we did a Zoom call like this with Blizzard Technica. But I'm curious, I've heard you mountain bike. I don't know if you road bike. And the way you were talking, you've been on the mountain bike for a long time. You talked about back in college and that. So can you tell us a little bit about your other training things, especially mountain bike and road bike?
Yeah. I definitely have a sickness for sure, because I try to seek out other things that mimic skiing when I can't ski. So I don't do as much anymore, but I did a lot of whitewater kayaking for a long time and tons of parallels with skiing there. But do a lot of paddling sports, can't go whitewater paddling, go out and stand up paddle around here pretty easily. Do a little bit of that. Every road cyclist that also skis probably got their start rehabbing an injury, probably a knee injury. I'm no different. So rehabbing a knee injury got me turned into a road cyclist. So I'll do a fair amount of that. And then I try to be in the gym a lot, which doesn't sound very fun. But that's a habit I really enjoy. It's just going and doing CrossFit style workouts at a gym here. I try to ski every day pretty much. And it's, a lot of wear and tear, and you definitely don't get stronger during the ski season. Depending on where you start, like most people aren't getting stronger or more fit from skiing. I think it's more of a steady degradation that goes on. So over time, I've learned that, I've got to start the season at a certain place in order to survive it physically. So that gym time is really trying to stay ahead of that.
Yeah, cool. And so how often do you get on the bikes?
Like 2 to 3 times a week.
Cool.
It's kind of tough, gets tougher. I've got 2 little kids, so my windows are limited compared to my desire, but yeah.
Angela's sitting there. Angela, how long since you've been on a bike? You haven't done a bike tour?
No, I haven't been on the bike a lot this year, but I intend to get out tomorrow. I know that just sounds like I'm making that up because you called me out, but I went for a trail run today, and I'm like, you know what? You can go a lot farther, a lot faster, and stay out a lot longer on the bicycle than you can on a trail run. So I think tomorrow is my day.
I think I have this probably totally wrong assumption that like an hour trail run is probably worth to like three times fitness impact of a bike ride. So, I think it's still good. So just like a 30-minute trail run, you're totally bike ready. You can bike all day.
I'll probably do 24 hours straight tomorrow after today's 30-minute trail
binge,
15-minute miles.
Binge.
Well, we were in the heart of the blueberry season, and then with the shop running an ice cream shop at night, I had to ride in the rain because we don't pick in the rain. We want wet blueberries, so it rained yesterday afternoon. So I'm like, all right, gonna get wet, but I get on the bike anyways. It was the only time I could get on this week so far.
Yeah, you got to do it when you can.
Got to do it when you can do it. So, what are you riding on? What's your bikes of choice?
Whatever I can get, but bike deals are hard to come by, aren't they?
Yeah.
Unless you're plugged into the bike industry. I was lucky enough to get a new pivot this year for my mountain bike, which has been pretty fun. A new switchblade. So
nice. What's the travel on that?
Like 160, 140.
Yeah. I've got a Fuel EX and Trek, and nice. I got like 140, 130, more trail bike than, you've got a little more travel than I have. Angela, you're on the just front, right? You're running a
front,
hardtail?
Cannondale, Beast of the East with a 130. I put a different RockShox on it with 130 travel. Yeah. It came with a lefty, and it was more of a, it was not a quality piece of gear.
I've always wondered how those ride.
Not well. I think I got 2 rides in without any trouble. And then on my third, I'm like pedaling to the single track, and it just like deflated. Like I'm bottoming out in the parking lot. This is not cool. So that was not a long-lived shock for me.
So out there in the big hills, there's a lot of hiking too. You do any hiking or trail running or no?
Yeah. I'm super fortunate where we live. There's some trails right from our doorstep. So that's the easiest exercise. It's like a trail run or a hike or mountain biking. So whatever the weather will accommodate or whatever my time window will allow, like that I can get out and do one of those things pretty easily. Pretty lucky.
That's cool. And there's a lot of stuff out there, and everyone always asks us, I know here in the East as Ed staff members, what we watch, what we read, and so what are some of the things? I mean, obviously, people go, do you read the manual? And I know we're not going to ask Stephen if he read the new Teaching Snow Sports or Children's Manual. We're going to assume he has, but what are some, like, do you watch a lot of the YouTube videos or certain ones or Riley McLaughlin stuff or any interesting things like that people might want to look into?
Yeah. Over the years, I have not really into anything YouTube wise at the moment. Actually, let me take that back. Last spring, Josh Fogg got me way into watching like 80s era Austrian demo team. And you can find a bunch of that stuff on YouTube. And that's like, that skiing to me is pinnacle, like pre-shaped skis, same mechanics and discipline as today, but just on inferior equipment in an all mountain environment. Like if you want to see like accuracy, power, and skill combined, like it's some good stuff.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know if Michael, I know watches probably and reads everything. And I mean, he can spout it off. And I mean, I know he definitely watches skiing across the world and the different countries and how they're skiing in that. So I didn't know if he'd put like, you guys must watch this.
No, Michael is like kind of like the velvet hammer with us, right? Like sort of like suggestions.
Yeah.
Never really mandates.
Yeah. But he'll ask you later, did you watch that?
Yeah. And then you're like, oh, maybe I should watch that. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah.
I heard he's telling everybody on the team that they should watch Fall Line with Chaos and Company.
Hopefully, especially after this one.
Yeah, there you go. I think he will. And speaking of that, the team and Michael and you guys are preparing, I know, for Levi, Finland coming up for the interski. How excited are you for that? And what are you prepping anything? Do you have a presentation? Do you have things you're looking at to do for you as a team member for the responsibility there?
So this will be my second opportunity to go to an interski, and like the first one, you think you kind of get it, what it's going to be like, but obviously this being the second one, have a much better clue about how to get the most out of it and contribute the most. So I'm really excited for it. And Smitty and I, Brian Smith, we've been looking at, I don't know if you guys remember on that learning connection model, there's this blue circle that goes around it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember what it says in there?
That's the behavior. It's the behavior. What's it say? We had a chat on that on the blue circle.
Yeah.
And
instructor behavior. Yeah.
Instructor behavior.
Decision making.
Yeah. Decision making. That's the one I was missing. Behavior and decision making.
Yeah. So Smitty and I are beginning to kind of organize some content around that, and with the help of Troy and Michael, we're working together to present that at Interski. If we haven't totally decided what that will look like, we don't want to put something out there that can't be continued. Maybe at another Interski down the road, or come back to our own membership and add value. So we're sort of right in that phase of really organizing it to the degree where it's like, we've got something here that we think could have some impact and add some clarity and power to the learning connection.
That's cool. Yeah, because I think I've heard this, and I know I've kind of been told this, that you guys do prep a lot of things. And not every single one you prep. It's kind of a process you go through. And then what are we going to take to Interski? Is that correct?
And you also have to get approved by.
Okay, that's so I think Wyatt have. Yeah.
By what do they call that? But just by that Interski committee.
Yeah.
They'll grant a certain amount of slots to each country for indoor presentations. Everyone gets on snow time to do workshops, but then as far as like the indoor stuff. There's a little bit of mystery around how many opportunities we'll have.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And the big one, I mean, everybody has a legacy in some way. I mean, as a team member, did you have it going into the team that you were like, I really would like to see this as my legacy, or is that formulating, or you're not even sure what that is yet?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's an interesting thing to think about. I definitely didn't come into the team with that ambition or clarity of ambition about what my legacy would be. And I don't know if I just want to be productive. I just feel like I always want to be taking advantage of opportunities that are out there or create new ones. Might not be able to always take advantage of the conventional opportunities that are out there. Like, it's been really hard for me to get east to go to Master's Academy or Project.
Yeah.
You know, that's a regret so far. But can I take advantage of other opportunities? Can I create new opportunities? You know, like the chat we did with all of the Blizzard team members. Like, I feel like that came up at one of our chats at team training, you know, like how could we create other opportunities, connect with the members, even though we couldn't be there. So, you know, just try to be creative and not just take it for granted that this is how you do it. This is how you be a team member. One thing I've been really focused on that I want to continue to focus on is training trainers. I think that, you know, training is a different skill set than being an instructor. And I think that there are skills there that could be formalized and trained, you know, that hopefully the association can get behind that goal of in a national scope, training ed staff, training trainers, and really embracing that difference, that distinction. Not all great ski instructors should become trainers, and not all great trainers are good instructors. So why is that?
That's a good one, Angela. I like what he had there. I think that whole thing, and then finishing with train the trainers, I think that'd be a pretty amazing legacy.
That's a really interesting observation, though, about trainers not being good instructors.
Yeah, there are a few out there, right? Like you can probably picture a few, but it cuts both ways. There's different skills there, or your effectiveness may only have, you know, might have a barrier. You know, there could be a barrier to your effectiveness in either realm if certain skills aren't developed. So I'm curious about that, and I definitely want to keep tugging at that thread and doing more to add to that conversation.
What have you enjoyed the most as a team member?
I think it's the people on the team. You know, you get to be with, and not nearly enough, by the way, you get to be with these folks that we all had this harebrained goal to be on the team and put in a lot of time and effort and energy to get there. And we tend to have a fair amount in common because of the goal that we all had. And just that's a community that you don't get access to. You know, I don't have access to that community when I'm at home in Utah.
Yeah. Even
if it's just one or two folks that are here nearby, it's like the having all of us together is such a cool thing. There's no real substitute for that. And that's a real gift of the whole experience.
Yeah. What's been the biggest surprise for you?
Boy, I think it's the perception that people put on you. You know, the assumptions that they automatically have of you because of a jacket that you wear. And that can be great and a powerful thing, but it can be unfair and, or misplaced. You know, some things are just like a misplaced assumption. So, you know, there's that element, right? It's like, where does the person begin and where does the position end? And are you doing a good enough job living up to the expectations of the position? So, you know, just reconciling that, like, how do you be yourself as a team member, and how do you get people to accept you for who you are? Because we all can't be as awesome as Michael, right? Or as Matt. You know, I can't be those guys. I can't be Jonathan. So, you know, how do I just be me? Like, what is it that I bring to the table that people value, and why would they want to, you know, what are they going to say? What do I want them to say about their time spent with me? Like that's a surprising thing. I think just having to figure that out, like answer those questions is one of the challenging and surprising parts of the job.
That's cool. That's definitely cool. And we would love to see you here in the East. That was one of the things I was going to ask is when will we see you in the East? Maybe at Masters Academy. We have one every December. There's another one coming up.
Oh, good. Really? I was worried after what I heard about last year that maybe they had decided the snow was never good enough to do it. So it was funny when I started my job last year at Deer Valley, Rob Sogard, who you know is my boss. And he said, do you go to Masters Academy? Like, no, not historically. He said, okay, good. It's like, you really need to be here, especially this first year. So I honored that wish last year. But hopefully I can get enough good things going earlier this fall where maybe I can sneak away for some time and get up there. Because
that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I would love to. I always joke with Jeb that I'm afraid to, that I'm like this like timid Westerner that can't stand up to like the abrasive New England humor. And so there you go. I put it out there for everyone to, have a little fun on my behalf if and when I make it out there.
Do you own a flannel shirt?
Yeah, I got a fine flannel collection.
Yeah. You have to bring your your Vermont tuxedo if you do make it.
Perfect.
Yes. Definitely. And so there was a big challenge. And I was just curious if you were there to see it. It happened at National Academy. It started on the podcast here between Mr. Greg Dixon and Hafer, and they did have the wrestling match. So did you witness it? And because there's a lot of claims as to who took the match. I didn't know if you saw it to know who you thought the winner was.
I feel like this was kept on the down low. I know.
Because there was a photo, right, Angelo? And someone was above someone's head.
I saw a photo. And what I remember was it was the day of the sponsor party.
Oh, okay.
And I was inside. And I'm in the hallway and Hafer comes running up and he was all excited. He was like, it happened. And I won. I'm like, what happened? I wrestled Dixon. I'm like, oh man, congratulations. And then I walked outside and I saw Dixon. He's like, dude, I won.
Classic.
So we like making challenges here. So I'm thinking of that challenge. So you said you paddled.
Mm-hmm.
Brenna Kelleher mentioned that she's not too bad at paddling. I didn't know if you had any challenge for Brenna or.
She's legit. Yeah, I mean, she's got hardware. I think she was like a freestyle champion at some point. Yeah. But I love going head to head with Brenna on anything. So, and she's just about as competitive as anyone I know. So, man, I would love to. We've been threatening to get on the river together and get after it. So that would be a good one. That'd be a really good one.
Hey, you said you weren't afraid to fail, so I figured you'd be game.
No, I'm not afraid to lose to Brenna. Like the list of guys that she's bested at one thing or another is probably long and distinguished.
Yeah, she does have some hardware in that area.
Yeah. Did she tell you how she decided to go out for the team? Did she tell you that story?
Yeah. Well, you have it.
It's real
tell
quick.
us again.
It's real quick. For the national team or the whitewater team?
Yeah, national team. She, Eric Lipton had come up to Big Sky to do something as in his team member capacity. And Brenna was out there skiing with him and took one look at what she saw. And she's like, I'm better than that guy. Like, what's the big deal? So there you have it.
I love it. I love it. That is awesome. Oh man. So good. But we can't finish. We have you here as a Blizzard Techna guy. What's your favorite sticks?
WRC.
Oh,
which, is probably not like the popular answer.
I don't know, Jonathan. That's like Jonathan's go-to.
They're so good. They're just supple and powerful. And I think that the appreciation for carving is coming back, for skiing front side, firm snow conditions or irregular snow. Like, I think that, people realize like they could it's nice to have fat skis. It's nice to have a ski for the conditions you want, but maybe you should have a ski for the conditions you have more of the time.
Yeah.
And that ski is probably not like a recreational facing ski for most recreational skiers, but man, if for like ski pros and like hard charging, maybe former racers, that ski is just so good. And I ski it like almost all the time, almost all conditions. And it just got a great feel. They just nailed it with that one.
Angelo got on that and had some great words about the WRC. Remember those?
Did I tell you I went down a closed trail on my WRCs?
Yeah. I don't know if you did. I don't think so.
I was skiing with my wife and she was like, it was groomed. And then she whispered, last week. So I'm halfway down this trail and it's like a rock garden.
Oh, no.
But the guys at Willie's Ski Shop did a great job bringing them back to life. CPR, resuscitated them.
Oh,
yeah. Core shots. But no, what did I tell you? I don't know what I told you.
You said that's a real ski.
Oh, it is a real ski.
It is. It's legit.
It is a legitimate piece of machinery.
Yeah.
But it's not overpowering. Like it's accessible. You don't have to be afraid of it. You can ski it. It'll let you stay on there. Yeah.
And what do you have your feet in? What boot are you
again, like not a popular answer, but I really like the World Cup 150.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty much what Troy's in.
Yeah.
Troy's in that World Cup 150. Angela, you were in the World Cup 120, right?
I was in the 130.
30?
Yeah. That's a lot of boot.
It's a lot of boot. Yeah. When your shins are 4.5 inches long.
Yeah.
It's a lot of boot.
Yeah. You need leverage.
Yeah. So I'm going to try the 110 next year.
This is something, if you've never tried it, and I would recommend this to anyone out there who has the means to pull this off. And maybe it's a little extravagant, but if you can ever get a stiffer lower and a softer upper to mix and match. So if you could go 110 upper over 130, pretty cool experiment.
I think Michael experiment. That's somewhat what not those exact numbers, but he does that, I believe, with his boot.
Yeah.
I think he's talked to us about that. Definitely stiffer, softer up top, stiffer down bottom.
Yeah. He recommended it to me. He's like, go get a 150, just use that for your lower, get the 130 cuff on there. And yeah, that was a great boot. But then he's like, well, it seems like you should just go straight 150.
Yeah.
What do you feel like mixing and matching did for you? What did you like?
Like you realize just the different roles those parts of the boot play, right? Like the lower plays a little different role than the upper. And I'm not a great boot guru, but the way it seems to me is like you really don't want that lower to deform too much. And so having that little more rigidity and strength in the lower, you avoid all that deformation in the lower cuff, better energy transfer laterally and fore and aft. And the upper, like maybe you don't rely on the upper to like save you, like I think sometimes the upper part of the boot might get abused, people lean on it, but it sort of teaches you to like grip the boot, grip the upper, or that overlap of the lower and the upper, instead of like kind of move back and forth or side to side against that upper. It's like you just develop a better connection, I feel like, to the boot.
Well, it's been awesome. It's good to talk to you again. We had little snippets in the fall one because we had, we have like 9 of us on the call with on the webinar with all the team members, Joe, Angela, and I. So this was cool just to chat, because this is only really the second time we've been able to hang out and chat. And I'm hoping you come east and maybe get to take some runs with you here at Masters Academy. It was a blast last year having the regular crew out and some of the new crew. I mean, the Flynn brothers were out, George and Bart, and created a ton of excitement. So I know you will if you come out too. So I'm hoping to see you come out. Any parting words, Angelo?
Yeah,
I'm going to do my best.
Sogard's been out. Maybe tell Rob to hold the fort down because you're coming east to wear your flannel. in the rain.
Yes.
Yeah, we're gonna have to get a hold of Sogard and go, what the heck, man? We want Helfenbein out here for Masters.
Hey, I think that could really help make it happen.
Yeah.
Let you guys just shoot Rob a couple emails or texts, say, this is happening. Just deal with it. You're going to be fine.
The coach, right?
Yeah, listen, great. Yeah. Well, hey, thank you. And it's been great to have another Blizzard Tech guy on. And we want to thank Blizzard Technica for helping and keeping things going this season too. And also Nick's Boot Fitting over in Vermont. Some great sponsors that helping everything keep going. So hope everyone's enjoying the podcast. And Stephen, thanks very much. I hope the rest of your summer goes well. And I do hope we get to ski this winter. So
thank you guys. Good luck with your podcast. I hope you get more and more listeners, and that, you get so many advertisers, you can just quit those other jobs and just keep doing this full time.
That's right. That'd be great. We got to talk to Joe on how we can up that sponsorship, right?
How do we escalate this thing? Come on.
Yeah, there we go. All right, man. It's been awesome. Thanks, Angelo.
Good seeing you, Stephen.
Always good, man.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.